It didn't begin with a greeting, a tease, or a smile. It began with a slam, the kind of sound that makes your stomach drop because you know something ugly has just been dragged into the light. One binder, thick, red, heavy, and the moment it hit the desk, the fairy tale everyone thought they knew started to rot from the inside out. Candace didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The calm was the warning, the kind prosecutors use right before they read the charge sheet. They said the files didn't exist. They said it was all conspiracy, internet madness, jealous whispering. They said Soho House was just a club. They said Meghan Markle was just an actress who got lucky. And then the binder opened. Page after page didn't read like gossip, it read like accounting. Codes, logs, dates, assignments, classifications. Not dreams, not romance, not destiny, structure, deployment, usage. And right there where members should have been was something else entirely. Vipsy, not celebrity, not charity, companion. That single letter detonated everything because suddenly this wasn't a love story anymore. It was a ledger. What Candace held up wasn't a rumor whispered in corners. It was a registry, allegedly pulled from Soho House internal systems during a chaotic data purge, the kind that happens when people realize too late that history has receipts. Names were redacted. Classifications were not. And next to Meghan Markle's name, there was no ambiguity. This wasn't about paying dues. This was about being assigned. The story everyone was sold, the struggling actress grinding her way up, the blogger manifesting success, the independent woman breaking ceilings, collapsed the moment the classification appeared. Because according to what Candace read, Meghan wasn't climbing, she was being placed. And then came the number, 89. Not dates, not lovers, not flings. 89 assignments. Candace didn't sensationalize it, she clarified it, which somehow made it worse. Not slept with. Assigned to, logged, tracked, deployed to rooms where powerful men closed deals, needed ambiance, needed polish, needed distraction dressed as intelligence. 89 times. From 2014 to 2016, the logs allegedly showed Meghan's ID number reappearing again and again, tied to private dinners, poker tables, business negotiations, yacht excursions, the invisible labor of elite spaces where women aren't guests, they're instruments. And one entry, dated November 2014, cracked the image wide open. West Hollywood, private room, 4-hour hostess duty. The client, an oil tycoon old enough to be her father. The notes didn't talk about romance. They talked about philanthropy, about membership fees, about value extracted. Candace said it plainly, she wasn't acting on a set, she was acting for a return. The beauty, the charm, the carefully curated intelligence, all part of the pitch. And suddenly, the rise didn't look organic anymore. It looked managed. Marcus Anderson's name hovered over every page like a signature you didn't have to see to recognize. Allegedly the architect, the handler, the gatekeeper, the man who decided which women entered which rooms and which men paid for the privilege of believing it was all natural. The fairy tale shattered not with scandal, but with structure. Then Candace turned another page, and the geography shifted. Instagram told one story. The binder told another. August 2015. Turkey. Beautiful photos, hashtags about gratitude and wanderlust. Sunlit smiles framed as culture and freedom. But the ledger didn't say vacation, it said deployment. Chartered flight, super yacht in the Bosphorus. Client allegedly linked to a Russian aluminum conglomerate. No girlfriends, no girls trip. A weekend assignment with a price tag that made the room go quiet, $40,000. Not paid to Soho House. Paid to a shell company. Candace paused there because that pause did the talking. You don't get paid that kind of money to sightsee. You get paid to perform. And when that performance is tied to sanctioned money, intelligence circles, and power structures that don't forgive mistakes, the implications get dark fast. This wasn't about lifestyle, it was about leverage. And if those allegations were true, then the timeline everyone clings to, the innocence, the naivety, the coincidence of meeting a prince, started to look dangerously incomplete because compromised people don't just stumble into royal circles. They're screened, or they slip through because someone didn't look hard enough, or because someone looked and decided it was already too late. Candace said the Istanbul weekend wasn't an outlier. It was a pattern, a circuit, one built on silence and payoff where charm replaced contracts and NDAs replaced boundaries. And then came Cannes. May 2016. Official history says Meghan wasn't there. No red carpet, no invite, no role. But the binder allegedly listed her anyway. On a yacht off the coast, 4 days long, client listed not as a man, but as a syndicate. 5 financiers, 1 vessel, 1 objective, atmosphere. Her role wasn't glamorous on paper. Head of protocol. A phrase so sanitized it almost fooled you. But Candace didn't let it. She said what it meant. Control the mood, manage the men, keep everything flowing. And then, buried deeper, the performance review. Not praise. A warning. Client feedback mixed. Pushing too hard. Trying to turn transactions into commitments. Becoming a liability. That line changed everything. Because suddenly, this wasn't about exploitation alone. It was about desperation. About a woman aging out of the circuit, watching options close, trying to force an ending before the window slammed shut. And when Can failed, when the ring didn't come, Candace said the rotation ended. One last assignment. London. June 2016. Project H. That was the pivot. The moment the script shifted from yachts to palaces, from billionaires who wouldn't commit to a prince who didn't know he was being cast. Because when she landed in London, it wasn't a blind date. It was business development. And Harry didn't know he was the prospect. The ledger didn't call it romance. It called it acquisition. And the drinks that night, expensed. Written off. Marketing. Because if this merger worked, the brand value would explode. The binder closed for a moment there, but the damage didn't. It ended with the realization this story wasn't about love found. It was about a role accepted. And the worst part, everyone in the room knew, except the man falling for the performance. The tragedy doesn't deepen slowly, it drops straight down. Because once the London assignment succeeded, once the prince was emotionally hooked, the operation didn't stop. It overlapped. And that's where the romance officially stops making sense and starts reading like a double book calendar that no amount of PR perfume can cover. August 2016 is remembered publicly as the summer of secrecy. The whispered calls, the late night texts, the beginning of us against the world. At least, that's what one side believed. But the binder Candace held didn't romanticize August. It categorized it. Active. Tier 1. Daily. Those were the words printed next to Meghan's name while Prince Harry was allegedly pacing floors, checking his phone, wondering why replies came late, why calls dropped, why time zones suddenly felt like walls. According to the ledger, while one man was falling in love, another was paying for priority access. Croatia. Dubrovnik, a yacht in the Adriatic. Instagram showed blue water and soft smiles. The binder showed a high net worth tech client and a status column that never lies. Active means available. Active means not exclusive. Active means the rotation never stopped. And then there was the note in the margin, the kind of note managers leave when they're annoyed but still billing. She is stressed. H is calling every hour. Client is getting annoyed. Told her to claim bad reception until client flies out. Prioritize the paying customer. That sentence landed like a slap because in that one line, the entire illusion collapsed. Harry wasn't the boyfriend. He was the prospect. The man on the yacht was the customer. And when the two conflicted, the hierarchy was clear. Harry waited. The client didn't. This wasn't a love triangle. It was a transaction queue. And according to Candace, that queue only ended when the royal deal was secured. Until then, Meghan was maximizing value, squeezing the last drops out of Tier 1 billing before the curtain closed, because she knew what was coming. The moment the relationship went public, the accounting changed. The binder shifted from assignments to balance sheets, from movement logs to numbers. And numbers, Candace reminded everyone, don't lie for feelings. January 2016, Toronto. The famous Yarmouth Roadhouse, the cozy sanctuary, the place of roast chicken and quiet domestic bliss. The house Harry visited believing it was her private refuge, except the lease didn't carry her name. The deposit wasn't hers. The payer wasn't personal. It was corporate. According to the documents Candace read, the property was listed internally as Annex T4, corporate housing, a controlled environment, a showroom designed to sell a narrative, warmth, simplicity, relatability, the perfect stage for a prince to imagine normalcy. The furniture wasn't chosen for comfort. It was chosen for optics. And when Candace said that aloud, the silence felt heavy because it meant the love story wasn't just managed, it was staged. By late 2016, the ledger showed strain, expenses stacking, flights, clothes, jewelry. Hosting fees fronted quietly, patiently, because the investment was nearing maturity. Then came the memo. November 2016. Assets secure. Transfer ownership of debt to Project Royal. Clear the ledger. The investment has matured. That was the line Candace didn't rush through, because that line explained everything. Debt forgiven. History scrubbed. Loans written off. Not because of kindness, but because the exit strategy had succeeded. The IPO had launched. The asset had converted. Marriage wasn't romance. Marriage was liquidation. Once the ring appeared, the network stepped back. Hands clean. Books balanced. What had been an expense became someone else's responsibility. And the British taxpayer inherited what Soho House no longer needed to manage. Candace didn't say Meghan was evil. She said the system was ruthless, that youth depreciates, that access closes, that women in these circuits are encouraged to climb fast or fall hard. And when the palace finally noticed, if they noticed, the timing was catastrophic. Ring on finger. Pregnancy announced. Optics locked. The choice wasn't between truth and lies anymore. It was between scandal and survival. So they buried it. Operation Clean Slate wasn't poetic. It was expensive. NDAs, payoffs, quiet settlements, photographers, stylists, crew members, anyone who'd seen too much too close to the waterline. Candace said the list wasn't short. It was thorough. And yet, one copy survived. The binder. Because Marcus Anderson kept his own insurance. That's why, Candace argued, certain relationships never break. Why certain people stay close. Why some friendships outlive usefulness. When someone holds your unredacted past, they don't need to threaten you. Their presence is the reminder. And that's where the tragedy flips. Prince Harry talks about being trapped, about cages and control, about systems that suffocate. But according to the story Candace laid out, he didn't escape a system. He entered one mid-transaction. He thought he was rescuing. He was acquiring. The night fantasy collapses when you realize the tower was furnished, expensed, and already scheduled for demolition. The damsel didn't need saving. She needed closure. And he gave it to her unknowingly, permanently. Candace ended where fairy tales usually begin, with the warning nobody listens to. That this story wasn't about tabloids or jealousy or sexism. It was about paperwork, about dates that don't line up, about money trails that don't disappear just because the dress is white. 89 men weren't gossip. They were entries. Harry wasn't special. He was client number 90. The only difference? The others paid for weekends. He paid with his life. And as the binder closed, the implication stayed open that fairy tales don't die from lies. They die from receipts. They die from receipts. They die from receipts. They die.